Hello, future engineers, viewers, subscribers, and students. Here is a video in engineering economy, and this is parts 1 and 2. So, first, let's have the definition of terms, and then we have the discussion of principles, formulas that should be the pattern and the sample problems. So we cover in this engineering economy 1 and 2 the following, but I will divide this into 2 or 3 parts maybe to shorten the video. So we have simple interest, compound interest, effective rate or equivalent and equivalent rate, annuity, then capitalized cost and annual cost, then uniform gradients. So the first term that will be used in this video would be interest, and we define that as the amount of money earned by a given capital. The next is simple interest, which is the interest directly proportional to the length of time and the amount of principal borrowed. So the next term would be about um, this is too low. So ordinary simple interest, which is based or computed on the basis of one banker's year. And one banker's year is 12 months, and that is also 30 days each, and which is equal to 360 days. So that's one banker's year. Then 1 year is equal to 365 days when we compute exact simple interest. So that is computed based on exact number of days. So 1 year is 365 days. That's an ordinary year. And if it is a leap year, if the year falls as a leap year, it is 366 days. Then take note that a leap year is a year divisible by 4, except century marks that are divisible by 400. So, example, 2100 is not divisible by 400, so it is not a leap year. Only 2200, 2400, those years are divisible by 400. So they are considered leap years. So the compound interest is defined as interest computed every end of each interest period, and the interest earned for that period is added to the principal. So that's the concept of compound interest, in contrast with the exact, or in contrast with simple interest. So the amount earned per compound period is added to the principal. Unlike in simple interest, the principal is fixed. Then we have the nominal rate of interest, which is that is, or this specifies the rate of interest and the number of interest periods per year. So that's nominal rate of interest. Then we'll have the interest, which is the amount of money earned by a given capital. So when you let your money be borrowed by somebody else, there is a what we call imposed interest depending on your transaction. It may be simple or it may be compound. Then we have the concept on effective rate of interest, which is defined as the actual rate of interest on the principal for 1 year. So that's called effective rate of interest. So that's for 1 year. Then next topic in this video would be about annuity, which consists of a series of equal payments made at equal intervals of time. So that's annuity. So the cash flow diagram, which will be explained as we move on, would be uniform for that case. And there are types of annuity. One is the ordinary annuity. So it is defined as, in this case, equal payments are made at the end of each payment period starting from the first period or beginning from the first period. So take note that equal payments are made at the end of each period. So the next type of annuity would be deferred annuity. So payments or the first payment is deferred a certain number of periods after the first. So that's called deferred annuity. So it may be at the end of the fifth period, sixth period, depending on that type of annuity, deferred annuity. So next is annuity due. So in contrast with ordinary annuity, equal payments are made at the beginning of each period, beginning with the beginning of the first period. So that's annuity due. So at the start, at the beginning, you have to pay the first of the equal payments already. So that's annuity due. Then lastly, we have perpetuity. Periodic payments continue indefinitely. So this is the application of capitalized cost when you maintain a bridge, buildings that are expected to last for long years, like buildings, for example, bridges. So it should be a bridge, for example, should last for at least 50 years. So you have to maintain that. So that's the application of this type of annuity perpetuity. Then we have uniform arithmetic gradient. So this is defined as a sequence consisting of end of period payments where each payment increases or decreases by a constant value. So just like in arithmetic progression, series of numbers that either increases or decreases by a constant value, and that constant value is the common difference, if you can recall. So we have geometric gradient, sequence consisting of end of period payments where each payment increases or decreases by a fixed percentage. So just like in geometric progression in algebra. So it's like that. Then capitalized cost, sum of the first cost and the present worth of all future payments and replacements which are assumed to continue forever. So that's the capitalized cost. The idea is it is the sum of all uh, present worth, first cost, and present worth of all future payments and replacements which are assumed to continue forever. Then let's have the concept on the cash flow diagram. So this cash flow diagram is an illustration showing cash inflows and outflows, which is very important in the analysis of cash projections or estimations. And it is like in statics, the free body diagram, which is important in the analysis of forces. So here, cash flow diagram, this is important to analyze cash inflows or outflows or the equivalent future worth, present worth, or the equivalent value of all transactions at a specified period. So we use that cash flow diagram. So a cash flow diagram, as mentioned, is like free body diagram in statics, which is necessary in analyzing for systems. So that's the idea. Then cash flow diagram may be different from the point of view of the borrower, and it is also different from the point of view of the lender, or the one who allow allows his or her money to be borrowed by somebody else. So we'll consider the cash flow diagram from a point of view of the borrower. So at present, because you're the borrower, it will be inflow to your pocket. So this is the beginning and that's the end. I'll call it Y, the time in years, so that you can remember easily that Y should be in years. Then we'll have here the present worth, P, and the future worth, present. It is a plus in your pocket because you're the borrower, and that at the end of Y period, you have to pay for it, including the interest. So it will be going down from your side. So this is equal to P plus the accumulated interest, depending on the transaction, if it is simple or compound interest is used. So interest next is equal to, or interest is a certain amount of money paid due to the borrowed capital. So that's what interest is all about. So it's like you borrow the money, you have to pay for the interest for borrowing that money. So it is also the paid amount for what is being borrowed due to the value of time and money. So time has a value. That's why in there is a saying that time is gold, because time is gold. You have to pay for what you borrowed. So it is called interest. So we have types of interest. And we have first the simple interest already discussed. The capital is fixed at any time. So that's the characteristics for this type of interest, simple. So the capital is fixed at any time. Then compound interest, the capital changes per compound period. So at the end of the first period, your capital would be the principal, then plus the interest for that period. So that's what called compound interest. Then we have here the definition, cash flow diagram, and so on and so forth. So in this part, let's have, I already discussed cash flow diagram, interest, simple interest. Then let's have compound interest here, continuation of uh, interest as, as of the present. So simple interest. So we have simple interest. So here for simple interest, remember the cash flow diagram from the borrower's point of view. It is a gain in your side if you are the borrower, and at the end of the period you have to pay for that borrowed amount and the interest. The interest is either simple or compound interest depending on your transaction. This is F equals P plus I. So therefore, the interest is the principal fixed capital P, the rate of simple interest, which is denoted by R here, and the period, which is in years, Y. So therefore, I equals PRY, or you may call it I pray. And you should do that in order for you to become, to transform yourselves into a better and a brighter student than what you are now. So I hope that through this video, through my videos, I can uh, mold you into a better one, even if it is slightly better than before. So I is the simple interest earned for the borrowed capital P after Y years. So R is the rate of simple interest and Y is the interest period, the period in years. It must be in years. That's why I used Y for that symbol. Then the formula I equals PRY, you should remember that for simple interest. So call this equation Engineering Economy 1, EE1. So since F is equal to P plus I and I is PRY, and we can now derive a formula for the future worth. It is equal to factoring out P, F equals P quantity 1 plus RY. So that's the formula. F equals P fixed principal or capital times quantity 1 plus RY. Call that equation EE does 2. So F is called future worth of P after simple interest. So that's the definition of F future worth. Then we have ordinary simple interest. For ordinary simple interest, 1 year is again 1 banker's year, 12 months, 360 days. Then if we have exact simple interest, then 1 year is equal to 365 days for an ordinary year, and it is equal to 366 days for a leap year. Then the leap year is any non-century mark year divisible by 4, and in ordinary or in century mark year divisible by 400. I already mentioned this before. So leap years are 2020, 2024, 2400, 2800, etc. As long as these century marks are divisible by 400. So we are now in compound interest in this part of the video. So compound interest, so we defined it as the principal, or the characteristics for this case is the principal P, which is not fixed in value, so is earning interest every compound period. So the compound period may be daily, it may be weekly, it may be bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, uh, semi-annually, and annually, of course. So that's it for that case. So after the first compound period, the principal for the next compound period will be the original principal plus the accumulated interest for that period, and so on and so forth. So that's the characteristics. That's one characteristic of compound interest. So this is the cash flow diagram for compound interest. So we have here the compound periods N. N may be, as I said, daily, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-quarterly, semi-monthly, uh, semi-annually, annually, etc. So we have here the first compound period, and we have F1 at the end of that compound period. F1 equals P plus the rate of interest, which is P times I. I is now the symbol for rate of interest in this case. So P plus PI, and F1 would be P times 1 plus I. So that's it. Then for second part up to the end, so second, your principal would be F1, and it will gain interest again. This is P times 1 plus I, and it will gain an interest P1 plus I times I. So the value F2 after the second compound period would be equal to F1 plus the interest. So F1, which is P1 plus I to the 1, or P times 1 plus I, plus the interest, which is F1, P times 1 plus I, and it earns interest again, so times I times 1, because the gap between 1 and 2 is 1 period. Factoring out P times 1 plus I, then we'll have P times 1 plus I times 1 plus I, or simply P times 1 plus I square. So we can now see the pattern and conclude that at the end of the end period, so on and so forth, then we'll have F here, which is equal to P 1 plus I to the n, because at the end of the second period, F2 is P1 plus I raised to the power 2. So therefore, F will be Fn equals F will be P times Y 1 plus I quantity to the n. So therefore, that's the formula for future worth. It is equal to F equals P times quantity 1 plus I to the n. So call this equation EE-3, and remember that all the formulas have been explained and derived, and I hope that you can remember them easily. You can rederive by yourselves. So F is future worth or accrued amount. That's the term for F. I is the compound interest, and the compound interest is equal to the nominal rate of interest divided by M, where M is the number of compound periods per year. We call that M. Call this equation EE-4. Again, NR is called nominal rate of interest, and M is defined as the number of compound periods per year. Example, if it is monthly, then M is 12. If it is quarterly, then M is 4. So let's have this first example. Example 1. For a nominal rate of interest of 9% for 6 years, determine the compound interest rates for various cases and the number of compound periods. So this is tabulated on the next slide, and let's continue. So let's have the solution to example 1. So we are now in compound interest part. So for the solution, first we have the compound period is annually. So compound interest I is simply 9%, 0.09 divided by 1. M is 1. If the compound period is annually, of course, it will occur one time per year. That's the meaning. So 0.09, and the number of compound periods, N, is N equals number of compound periods per year times number of years. So it was 6 years, so M is 1, so 6 also. So in other words, 6 compound periods for the entire duration of this transaction. So N is 6. If it is semi-annually, then I is equal to 0.09 divided by 2, twice a year. So that's 0.045. Then N is 2 times 6. So 12 equal compound periods. Then if it is quarterly, every 3 months, so I is 0.09 divided by 4, and that is 0.0225. N is 4 times 6, and that's 24 compound periods. If it is semi-quarterly, every 1.5 months, then I is 0.09 divided by 8, and that's 0.01125. and n, number of compound periods, is equal to 8 times 6, and that's 48. If it is bi-monthly, every 2 months, then I is 0.09 divided by 6, so 0.015 n, and n is equal to 6 times 6, and that's 36. If it is monthly, every month, then I is zero point zero 0.09 divided by 12. M is 12. So that would be 0.0075, and N is 12 times 6, and that's 72. If it is bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, then I is zero point zero 0.09 divided by 24, and that's 0.000375, and N is 24 times 6, and that's 144. Then if it is weekly, every week, I is zero point zero 0.09 divided by 4 times 12, 48, and that is equal to 0.001875, and n is equal to 48 times 6, so that's 288 compound periods daily, every day, and I is 0.09 divided by ordinary 360 days, so 0.00025, and n is 360 times 6, and that's 2160 compound periods. Finally, if it is continuously, then I is equal to R over M, 0.09 over M, where M is any, N is M times Y, continuously, that's large. So we replace simply N by My to derive the formula later. So F again is P times 1 plus I to the N, and that's equation E das 3. F over P, we call that, which is equal to I 1 plus I to the N, single payment compound amount factor. We call that compound amount factor, while P over F is equal to single payment present worth factor. So that's it for that part. So for the case where we have continuous compounding, or the compound period is indefinite and it is continuous, then from f equals p1 plus I to the n, we replace I by nr over m, and or simply r over m. So remember, this is equation E das 3. So replacing I by r over m, then mn by my, or my. We note from calculus that the limit of 1 plus 1 over m, 1 over x, or 1 over m, raised to x as x approaches infinity, in this case 1 plus 1 over m raised to m as m approaches infinity, because this is continuous compounding, so m is infinite. So the limit of the quantity 1 plus 1 over m raised to m as m approaches infinity is equal to the number e, which is 2.71828. So for example, in your calculator there, evaluate 1 plus 1 over 100,000. I just use 100,000. You can make it accurate if you increase this to 1 million, 10 million, and so on, as long as your calculator will not complain, it will evaluate the value. So you will notice that it is 2.7, approximately 2.71828, and that's the number E. So likewise, limit of 1 plus, this time I replace this by R, this here, over M raised to M, and that would be equal to E to the R. So that's E to the R. So replacing 1 plus R over M raised to M by E to the R. So the formula for f therefore is equal to, so p limit of quantity 1 plus r over m raised to m quantity raised to y as m approaches infinity, and we replace this by e to the r. So therefore the formula for future work for continuous compounding case is p e to the r raised to y, and that is Perry. So F equals Perry. So sounds like Fatty Perry. So the ratio again of F over P, which is e to the ry, we call this single payment compound amount factor for the case of continuous compounding. So that's the definition of that. F over P, ratio of future worth and present worth, is e to the ry, and that's uh, single payment plus single payment compound amount factor for the case of continuous compounding. While P over F, which is e to the negative ry, or 1 over e to the ry, we call that single payment present worth factor for the case of continuous compounding. Then we call this equation EE 3.1 because it's the same. This is for continuous compounding situation. So that's it for that case. And let's have inflation rate. So we define inflation rate as the explanation is the purchasing power of money is affected by this inflation rate here. And I'll call it, we replace it by, the inflation rate is denoted by F here. So therefore, if you borrow money from a lending institution at the interest rate of I, the total interest that you will pay is given by the formula I plus rate of inflation plus the inter-effect of inflation. So I begin with F, inflation rate, then plus I, then plus Fi, or you may interchange position, but it's easy to remember if we're going to call it ICF, which is equal to F plus I plus Fi. So it is phi phi or phi phi if you want. So call this equation E equals 5. So I sub CF is called interest that takes care of the cost of money and inflation. So that's the definition for that case. So let's have example 2 on this part. You owe 120,000 pesos from a friend and promise to pay 6% simple interest. How much will you pay at the end of 9 months? How about at the end of 1 year and 6 months? So this is part of simple interest problem. So the question is the amount that you will pay at the end of 9 months. So this is the future worth, and the amount after 1 year and 6 months. So 9 months is 9 over 12 months, so that's 0.75. Y is 0.75, and F is P quantity 1 plus I to the 1 plus RY, you can recall. So F is P 1 plus RY, and P is 120,000, R is 0.06, and Y is 9 over 12. Substitute into the formula, and we'll get the value of F after 9 months equal to 125,400. That's the future worth. So the interest therefore is 5,400. Then for the second part, F is substitute 120,000. We just replace Y by 1.5 uh, years. So 1 plus 0.06 times 1.5. So F is equal to 130,800. Then example 3, price tag of 150,000 pesos is payable in 60 days. A 3% discount is offered if paid in 30 days. So what is the rate of simple interest? So for the solution, let's draw the cash flow diagram so that we can analyze it. So this is the period payable in 60 days, but if you pay in 30 days, so that's the future worth supposedly at the end of 60 days. Then if you pay in 30 days, you only pay 0.97 of F because you are offered 3% discount. So 100% minus 3% is 97% or 0.97 of that. Discount, by the way, is applicable to that future worth. So this is the cash flow diagram. This is the present worth at present P. So from F equals P1 plus RY formula, then we'll have here 0.97 F equals P, then 1 plus uh, R times 30 over 360 for ordinary simple interest. So 0.97 of F equals P, then quantity 1 plus R. You look at this cash flow diagram, the distance between them in time is 30 days. So in years, 30 over 360. So call this or simplify this into 0.97 F equals P1 plus R over 12. Then for the second solution, F equals P1 plus R 60 over 360 for the second equation. Then we need to equate or 0.97 of F is equal to, so 0.97 of F and F is equal to this is equal to P times 1 plus R over 12. So 0.97 of F and F is this P times quantity 1 plus R over 6 is equal to P, this right side here, cancel out P and solve for R. R is equal to 38.30%. So that's the value for that case. So still on inflation rate part and these other four previous topics, example 4, we have if the cost of money is 9% and the inflation rate is 5%, what interest rate will take care of the cost of money and inflation? So formula, I sub CF, the interest that will take care of the cost of money and inflation is equal to F plus I plus FI or phi phi if you want. So ICF equals F plus I plus FI where F is 0.05 and I is 0.09. So substitute 0.05 plus 0.09 plus 0.05 times 0.09 and express in percent, that would be 14.45%. Example 5, a man borrowed from a bank under a promissory note that he signed in the amount of 60,000 pesos for a period of 1 year. He received only 50,150 pesos after the bank collected the advanced interest and an additional amount of 850 pesos for notarial and inspection fees. So what was the rate of simple interest that the bank collected in advance? So don't be blinded by the offer. Normally, this is the actual situation. You borrow 100,000, but you will only receive at that period by, let us say, 90,000, because 10,000 is already deducted from you as the interest. And after 1 year, you have to pay back 100,000. So the cash flow diagram is very important. So this is the solution. Remember that F is equal to P quantity 1 plus Ry, and the present value is 50,150 plus 850. So that would be, the amount that you get is 50,150 plus 850. But this 850 is for notarial inspection fees. So all in all, the amount that you receive is 51,000. So this 51,000 is your capital or borrowed amount, which you will pay at the end of the period for 1 year of 60,000 pesos. So 60,000 is equal to 51,000 times quantity 1 plus R times Y, and Y is 1. So from there, you can compute R, and R is equal to, in percent again, 17.65%. So next we have example 6. When compounded by monthly, 150,000 pesos becomes 223,183 after 5 years. What is the nominal rate of interest? So this is compounding case, compound interest case. So for the solution, F is equal to P quantity 1 plus uh, I raised to N, and I is nominal rate over M, and N is My. Remember, so this is the original formula, but take note that I is nominal rate over M, and the nominal rate is the question, and M is by monthly, so every 2 months, so M is 6, and we replace N by 5 times 6, or 30. So substitute into this formula here, where F is 223,183 equals 150,000, quantity 1 plus nominal rate over 6 raised to 6 times 5. So that's 30. So solving for NR using your calculator there, NR is equal to 8% compounded by monthly. So that's the answer. Then example 7, an engineer's fund is invested at 8% per annum net of taxes compounded quarterly. When will the fund triple? So this the formula, F becomes 3 of P, and the nominal rate is 8% per annum, so that's also 0.08 divided by 1, so that's 0.08. So F is equal to P1 plus I to the N. I is just NR, NR of 8% over 1, that's the same. And N is equal to 4 times Y. So F is 3P, so 3P equals P, quantity 1 plus 0.08 over 4 raised to 4Y. You can use ln in this case. Simplify, 3 is equal to 1.02 to the 4y, and to solve for y without shift solve in your calculator, take ln of both sides. Ln of 3 equals ln of 1.02 to the 4y, and the right side is also equal to 4y, ln of 1.02. So from there, y is ln of 3 divided by quantity 4 ln of 1.02. So n y is equal to 14 years. Sample 8, what is the difference between the total simple interest and the total compound interest on the savings of 200,000 pesos at 4% per annum net of taxes for a period of 6 years. So this is just the difference of I, and I is F minus P. F is from this formula for compound interest case, and F equals P1 plus RY for the simple interest case. So the solution will be on the next slide. So for the solution, delta I is equal to I compounding case, then I simple case. So take note that we expect I sub C to be greater than I sub S, because remember, by principle, the principal changes per compound period. So I sub C is just future worth minus present worth. So I sub C is F minus P. Formula for F is P1 plus I raised to N. And to be specific, I sub C is P quantity 1 plus I to the N minus 1. So that's it for I sub C. For I sub S, it is just PRY, direct formula. So therefore, if we set up a formula for delta I, we substitute it here. Delta I is P1 plus I to the N minus 1, then minus PRY. If we factor out P further, then delta I is P quantity 1 plus I to the N minus 1 minus RY. So that's the formula. Then we substitute values. P is 200,000, I is 0.04 over 1, N is 1 because that's per annum, raised to 1 times 6, then minus 1 minus 0.04 times 6. So calculating using your calculator there, it is equal to 5,063.8 pesos. You may solve this again by computing the individual interest per case, then get the difference. So it should still be I sub C minus I sub S. Sample 9, this is the last part. I break the video because it's already long. A man buys a house and lot worth 2.5 million if paid in cash. He agreed to pay a down payment of 900,000 pesos and two installments 1.2 million at the end of 2 years and the balance at the end of 5 years. Determine the amount of this balance if the interest rate is 18% compounded quarterly. So for the solution, we have to draw the cash flow diagram so that we can analyze this problem well. So we have 0 horizontal, then time in years. So take note that the man agreed to pay 900,000 pesos and two installments, down payment of 900,000 pesos and two installments 1.2 million at the end of 2 years, so at the end of 2 years, and the balance at the end of 5 years, which we do not know yet. So this is the present worth of the house and lot, 2.5 million. If you were the borrower, then it is a gain on your part. Then you have to pay at this present period 900,000 down, 0.9 million. Then at the end of 2 years, 1.2 million down. And at the end of 5 years, we do not know, so we'll call that balance in in billion, million pesos. So this 2.5 million pesos should be equated to zero point 0.9 because it occurs at present. Then this 1.2 million will be projected to the present, since the connection between uh, future worth and present worth is that this future worth shall be divided by 1 plus I to the n. P is F over 1 plus I to the n. So we divide this by 1 plus I 0.18 divided by 4. I is nominal rate divided by 4. Then raised to, if this is 2 years, 4 times 2, n is 8 for that case. And the balance here should also be divided by 1 plus I to the n, where I is 0.18 divided by 4, can easily compute that, and n is 4 times 520. So this is the 20th period, compound period. So 2.5 million is equated to the present worth, which is 0.9 million already present, plus 1.2 divided by 1 plus 0.18 over 4 raised to 8. You have to project that at present. So 1.2 million over 1 plus 0.18 over 4 raised to 4 times 2 or 8. Then plus this balance also projected to present so that we can equate it to 2.5 million is divided by 1 plus 0.18 over 4 raised to 4 times 5 or raised to 20. So using your calculator, because this is the only unknown here, the balance is equal to 1.824 million. So that's it for this part.